I'm Erin Lawler Patterson, the goodness chick. I'm an addictions counselor, motivational speaker, author, and parent coach. Join me on the journey of navigating the joys and pitfalls of life, addressing parenting, giving back, mental health, addiction, and relationships. If it takes a village, then join me as one of those villagers. Villagers wanted.
All right, so I am super excited for today. I have a special guest, Jess Capano, who is a dear friend of mine whom I adore, and our paths kind of crossed your freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
So Jess and I have known each other for how many years?
That was 2006.
2006? So 2006, so that's 12 years. I was an English major, not a math major. Math. I can do math, a little bit of math. And one of my approaches, I when I comes to working with people is kind of how like we're all layered, kind of like the whole Shrek with the ogre onion thing. And we've got, whether you're Vidalia or you're like a little Spanish onion going on, we're all got onions with layers. And I think, I had the privilege of kind of helping you begin peeling back some of your layers. And I think about how you, for those of you that don't know Jess, you're missing out on a true blessing in life because she is an amazing human being. But when I, sit down and talk with students, sometimes it's like so many who don't feel heard, or so many who have things going on like all of us as human beings do hurts. And I think like one of the statistics, which I don't take statistics out there, are like more than half of us have somebody in our home or extended family when it comes affected by addiction. And we get really weird. We were just talking about this a little bit ago. Like there's like this weird hush, like let's not talk about it kind of thing, even though it's affecting more than half of us. And so do you feel like at any point in high school that you were heard? Do you feel like, if I could ask in what way addiction has kind of impacted you in your life?
I would say, so in high school, it's kind of a weird time. You're trying to figure out who you are. You have friends from middle school that you either maybe like or some you wish you didn't have. And then new people are coming into high school, so you're trying to impress people. You have the older kids. So it's just a weird time in general, even if you're not affected by addiction. But for me personally, my dad was an alcoholic all growing up. So I didn't really know that it was that different. I just knew something was wrong. But it's something I grew up with for a very long time. So it was our normal. But I didn't talk about it a lot because it's like, how do I tell someone that when I'm driving in the car with my dad that instead of water or coffee, he's drinking beer while we're driving? Or how do I tell someone that, my dad doesn't come home till 1 a.m. and when he comes home, he busts down the door, or whatever it is. So it's like, not only did I not feel heard, I just didn't even want to speak to be heard. You're embarrassed, you're scared. You also don't want to say something that might throw your dad in jail or whoever has the addiction. And I did speak up one time in middle school or elementary school, and it caused the whole uproar with my family. So you get scared to speak up. You feel lonely, embarrassed. You think, maybe did I cause something? Is my dad like this because we're not good kids, or is there something that maybe I might have caused? So it's awkward and embarrassing, and high school is just a weird time. So I would say when I first met Lawler, I had no layers peeled. I was
You're
definitely
full-fledged Vidalia, baby.
Full-fledged Vidalian. But just her approach she just got to know me for me. She fed me. I specifically remember pancakes, which I love pancakes. She made me feel included. I would think that was the biggest thing. Before it's kind of like, unless you join a club or you take the initiative, you're not really included. But Lawler made me feel, like, how can we get you plugged in? And she would get me plugged in with her runs or whatever it was. And I just felt like I had someone who saw me through the group. And it was just, to this day, I can say that she changed my life, and I'm different because of it. But yeah, high school's a weird time, especially freshman year.
It's a weird time. It can be a lonely time.
Yeah.
And I think about like all the thousands of kids who will go to school on Monday who have somebody in their home, and it's kind of like, how do you kind of get them to that point to say, like, it's hard not to be embarrassed or feel like I'm alone and I'm the only one. That's a really hard wall to jump over, but it's like, what would you say, I'm going to say to that person listening that has somebody at home, and sometimes we try to fix them, and sometimes we think it's our fault, and we kind of get to a point that, like, you kind of feel like you're drowning, and you can't fix the person until they're willing to take that step. But what do you feel like helped you get stronger, if that makes sense, and helped you kind of feel not so alone?
Yeah. I would say for me, it would be, well, you go through a couple stages. At first, it's kind of like acknowledging I can't fix the person. So maybe you've tried before. I would try to sit my dad down and be like, Dad, please don't drink. That might work for some parents, but for mine, it didn't. So there's that stage. And then you kind of have to come to a point where you're like, okay, this person's not changing. So now I need to work on me and focus on me and my mental health so I don't end up in the same, situation that they are. So for me, it was, meeting Lawler helped me to talk about it. Because before we talked, I don't think I've ever even verbalized that there was something wrong. My family, we tried to hide it. And my family's great, but we're just humans, and we don't want people to see our messiness. So just talking about it, it starts with one person. Maybe you tell one person, and then slowly you tell a couple other people, and you'll see that other people have the same thing going on or something similar. So maybe just grabbing a friend that you can trust, one that, you can rely on, that they're not going to spread all your drama around the school, but that you can just open up to. And that's like, it starts there, I think. And then slowly, for me, I didn't really like to be home because home was not a safe place and it wasn't relaxing. So getting plugged in with an organization, giving back to people, focusing on something else besides just my situation. There are people that are hungry, that need clothes, and maybe I didn't need clothes, but there are people who do, and maybe I have clothes to give. So I would say, instead of just focusing on your own issue, also looking to other people and helping them, and through helping others, I think you really heal, and you feel like that you have a purpose on this earth. You're not just here to hurt because someone's hurting you, but you can also help other people through your hurt,
which I think is pretty solid. And I saw that shift in you in high school, where you kind of got stoked, where the light kind of went off and on or off. I don't know, on. The light went on.
I guess on.
That it was like that you just got stoked about helping people. Like, I saw that, like, kind of counselor, even at 17, in you, and like seeking out people and their needs. And it was so cool, like that, the process of healing, but also like, dude, I could impact somebody's life.
Yeah.
And even though I've been through some crazy crap, and just like I had said to you before, like I feel like the people I've come across in my life who've been through the heaviest stuff, and use it to kind of do good without sounding cheap, like, are the most effective humans when it comes to, as friends, as siblings, as significant others, as counselors, like, they're effective.
Yeah.
Because, not to say that we compare and contrast, but I think when you've been handed some heavy stuff in life and you allow it to fuel you instead of consume you, it's kind of a beautiful thing. And for you, that's what you did.
Yeah, definitely.
It fueled you. I'm going to flip things. Boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
Jess has no idea what I'm asking. The questions I was going to ask, now I'm not. So that's just how we roll.
Lawler.
Yeah, like, ding. And Hannah Oberman here is actually taking some pictures and documenting this whole thing. So we're pretty stoked and pretty outside under it's raining and drizzling and all elements. So I'm flipping the switch a little bit, switch table, something.
We're ready.
So I think of your mom, and I think of all the people I've talked to over the years who've said, whether they're a teenager, they're adult, like, I stayed together for the kids, or I don't think this is going to affect my kids, so we'll stay together when it comes to particularly like one of the parents struggling with an addiction. So I'm going to ask you with that, what do you say about that? Like, your mom, who I literally have like the highest respect and admiration for, like, is just rad in 8 languages. I would say it, but I don't know how, because I'm still working on that. But is an amazing human. And I think she inspired you and your brother particularly, like, by her example. So what do you say to that, maybe that mom or that dad or whoever's listening right now? Like, I'm staying together for the kids.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
It's definitely a tough topic. You know, I'm recently married and I hold marriage at a high regard. You know, I don't necessarily agree with people getting divorced just because they don't feel like it or whatever, but I do think that there's a line when abuse is in the relationship. And, you know, I've only been married a little bit, so I'm not, like, wise beyond my years, but...
Well, you're pretty wise.
But I would say that your kids are going to be impacted by what they see, not necessarily what you tell them. So if you tell them that, you know, everything's fine, or we're going to work it out, you know, mom and dad are going to work it out, daddy's just having a bad day or something, like, your kids are going to be affected by what they see.
Sponges.
And I still remember the things I've seen, and it's interesting because me and my brother have different takes on it because he saw less and he was younger. But those things, I can't erase what I saw in my mind. You can forgive and you can forget, but they're still in there, what you see. So I would say if divorce is off the table, obviously I respect that decision, but I would say think about living separately or taking the kids, maybe stay with grandma for a little while. I did that. Or, you know, just rent an apartment for a couple months or whatever it is. But, you know, get the kids out of that situation, at least so they're not seeing it. They can heal a lot better when they're removed from it. My mom, you know, bless her heart, she's an amazing woman, and she didn't want to get divorced because she felt that, you know, a man and woman should stay together and they should stay together for the kids. But it got to a point where I remember this so specifically, she would tell me, Jess, I'm going to have a mental breakdown if I don't leave. And then you have no parents that that are caregivers. So she said, you know, we need to leave, and we packed everything up and we left in one day. And we found a little place to rent, and you know, it wasn't big, it wasn't nice, but it was peaceful, and there was no yelling, and there was no alcohol. And you know, for me, I don't know if I would still be here if she didn't choose that for me. And you know, yes, I'm sad that my parents eventually got divorced and how it ended up, but I think my mental health and my brother's mental health definitely were greatly impacted by her deciding to move out and take us to a different house.
And look where you are now.
Yeah.
Really because of that. I mean, like you, I don't know, I remember the conversations I had with your mom when you got, you know, when you were in high school, and I think your brother was in middle school.
Yeah.
And just admiring, it is not an easy thing to do. I mean, she literally went on her own with you two, and it was like looking in her eyes, you always hear like the eyes are the windows to the soul, like how she loved the crap out of you guys and took a leap that was so scary that probably kept her up at night, and she had stomach aches and it was scary, but she did it. And to me, that is one of the ultimate forms of what love is. And it's scary. And how I look at both you and your brother now, who are just adults, which is still hard for me to digest because I remember, you know, and you're amazing people who are now doing amazing things, and that domino effect, like your mom created a domino effect in a beautiful way, like really. And how when we hear that when a person is addicted to something, they're not a bad person. We can kind of cast a negative light on people, and addiction can be dirty and it can be uncomfortable. But I think until we begin to talk about it and how you were affected, and I think about in any high school, how many kids are affected, and we're butt heads because we don't make people more comfortable to talk about it. Like, it's not that freshman, sophomore, junior, seniors, it's not on them, but it's on them, and we're putting it on them because we're not talking about it and letting them become free. Let me talk about it. And you know what? You can't change your mom or your dad or your brother and your sister, but you can change how you react and how you deal with life, and that's what you did. And I mean, I will say from the rooftops of New Jersey, Idaho, or I don't know, El Salvador, which I once unintentionally went to and booked a ticket to the wrong country. That's another podcast session. You can do it, and how, like, I do think that's a beautiful thing. And so, you know, for anyone who's listening, and I'd say at least half of you, like, you know someone, and it's time to stop getting uncomfortable talking about it. It's time sitting down with our kids or our siblings or our spouses. How is this affecting us? And change doesn't happen until we open our eyes, stop being buttheads, and know we all have crap. And until we start to deal with our crap doesn't change. Crap gets crappier, right? Let's like uncrap ourselves. That could be a t-shirt. I won't make that. But, so that's kind of where we're at. And I do want to say, like, you know, life happens. We are all onions. When we begin peeling the layers is the only time health can become kind of infused in who we are and being well. And life is a journey. And man, life can be hard sometimes, like super hard. But when we realize, just like you did, that you're not alone and that there's power and strength. You had said that, like, there's strength when we realize we're not alone. That friend you were talking about who you knew in high school, but neither of you knew your stories. And it's like when we begin kind of pulling that back and like, we're not alone. And that's kind of an empowering thing. Yeah. Like, and we might not be able to fix the person that we're but we can help and heal each other. So that's kind of where we're at. And so I encourage you, if this kind of made your wheels spin a little bit, let them spin, but do something with it. It's learning to become more comfortable with the topic of addiction. And addiction comes in a whole lot of different forms, my friend. It's not just a bottle of whiskey. It's pornography. It's gambling. It's so many different things that are cancerous to a lot of our homes. And it's not pointing a finger. It's sitting down, it's talking, and it's taking a step forward. So I encourage you to do that because life's too short to be on cruise control. Life's too short to be hitting the pause button and not letting it go forward. So go forward. And I encourage you that if this is something that kind of touched a nerve or you know someone that this applies to, dude, kick this to them. Encourage them to jump on, listen to the podcast. We need to start talking. We need to start dialoguing. We need to start becoming more comfortable because we're not alone through this, and we're not intended to go at this alone. So thank you, and keep on rocking, my friends. Peace, love, and goodness.
If you enjoyed today's show, I encourage you to subscribe to Goodness Chicks Podcast and pass it along to your friends. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have a great day.